In the competitive world of Chinese electric vehicles
Looking for a spot.
that are going further and costing less than ever before, no company makes or sells more than BYD.
China's electric vehicle industry has been growing like crazy, and it's quickly becoming the global powerhouse in this field. A mix of government support, hefty investments, and a booming local market has turned the country into the world's leader in EVs. With all this momentum, Chinese EVs are now eyeing the US market, and American brands better watch out. The rise of Chinese electric vehicles. The Chinese government is a big part of the reason for this boom. They've rolled out all kinds of incentives to get both consumers and manufacturers on board with EVs. We're talking about generous subsidies for buyers, tax breaks, and regulations that make it easier to produce and sell electric cars. The government has also heavily invested in building charging stations, creating a solid infrastructure to keep EVs on the road. When you look at the numbers, it's clear that things are changing fast. In 2024, EV sales in China jumped by over 40%, while traditional gasoline-powered vehicle sales took a hit. This shift shows that more and more people are leaning toward electric cars, and it's not just a niche market anymore. Overall, vehicle sales across the country rose by 4.5% to hit 31.4 million units, with exports of cars growing nearly 20%, and electric vehicles were a huge part of this. Exports of new energy vehicles, things like pure battery EVs, fuel cell cars, and plug-in hybrids, reached 1.2. Chinese automakers have been stepping up their game in terms of technology. They're pushing the envelope on battery efficiency, charging speed, and overall vehicle performance. These advancements mean Chinese-made EVs are now competing with well-established global brands, offering a range of options that meet different customer needs, whether you're looking for something affordable or more high-end. Plus, the tech improvements keep making EVs more practical for daily use, whether it's shorter charging times or longer driving ranges. Speaking of going global, China is really expanding its reach. More and more Chinese EVs are showing up in Europe and other emerging markets. In 2023, China overtook Japan to become the world's largest exporter of passenger vehicles. And it's not just about the cars themselves. China has been building an extensive network of charging stations to make EV adoption even easier. Their charging infrastructure is one of the biggest and most widespread in the world, which means you're less likely to run into the common EV problem of finding a charging station. With this kind of support, it's no surprise that people are increasingly making the switch to electric. And it's not just about building cars. Chinese automakers are making sure they're offering something people can actually afford. Competitive pricing strategies. Chinese car manufacturers have really figured out how to price their electric vehicles in a way that makes them hard to beat, both at home and abroad. They've got a bunch of smart tactics under their belt that incentives to make sure local manufacturers can keep their costs low. Take BYD, for example. They got 37.1 billion yuan in tax rebates over 5 years, which is nearly 4 times what they received in direct subsidies. These kinds of financial boosts help car makers reduce their production costs, which in turn lets them sell their cars for less. That's a win for both the manufacturers and the customers. Another big factor is economies of scale. Chinese automakers have mastered the art of mass production. The more cars they make, the less it costs to produce each one, which means they can pass those savings on to buyers. So, the more they produce, the better deal they can offer. This gives them a big advantage, especially as they ramp up EV production to meet both domestic and international demand. When it comes to going global, Chinese companies like BYD don't hold back on pricing. They often set their prices lower in foreign markets to quickly grab a share of the market and build brand recognition. This kind of aggressive pricing strategy helps them push sales numbers up and get a solid foothold in new territories. Once they have that established presence, they can focus on growing long-term profits and loyalty. One of the reasons Chinese car makers can keep prices so low is by localizing their supply chains. Instead of shipping everything from China, they've set up production and supply chains in different countries. This strategy cuts down on import tariffs and reduces shipping costs, making it cheaper to produce and sell cars in those markets. It also helps them avoid delays that could impact prices, making sure they stay competitive wherever they go. Lastly, Chinese automakers are experts at reading the room. They can quickly adapt to market trends and consumer demands, tweaking their designs and features to fit local preferences. Adaptability keeps them ahead of the curve, letting them stay competitive even as market dynamics change. But it's not just about keeping prices low. Chinese automakers are also pushing the envelope when it comes to tech. Technological advancements. Chinese electric vehicles aren't just about sleek designs or affordable prices. These cars are packing cutting-edge features that make them stand out, especially when it comes to battery tech and self-driving capabilities. When it comes to batteries, Chinese automakers are ahead of the curve. They've been putting a lot of focus on making batteries that last longer, charge faster, and are safer to use. Take BYD, for example. Their Blade battery is a game changer. It's known for being super affordable, safe, with many people looking to them as the go-to for reliable electric cars. But it's not just about the battery. Chinese companies are also making huge strides in autonomous driving tech. XPeng, for instance, is really pushing the envelope with their advanced driver assistance systems. They've integrated partially autonomous driving into their vehicles, using artificial intelligence to make driving safer and more convenient. This tech is seriously appealing to tech lovers who want to have all the latest gadgets in their cars. Think of it as the next step toward fully self-driving cars. XPeng's commitment to this kind of innovation is part of why they're getting so much attention, not just in China, but around the world. What's even cooler is how fast Chinese EV makers are moving when it comes to innovation. These companies are known for having super quick development cycles, which means they're always bringing new models and tech features to market at lightning speed. They're always offering something fresh and relevant to their customers. And it's not just about getting cars on the road faster, they're also making the driving experience more high-tech. Chinese EVs are starting to integrate artificial intelligence, AI, in ways that make them smarter and more intuitive. For instance, you've got voice control, where you can talk to your car to get things done. There are also personalized settings that adapt to your preferences, making each ride feel like it's tailored just for you. Plus, predictive maintenance is becoming more common, meaning your car can let you know when it needs a checkup before something goes wrong. All of this makes for a more connected, seamless driving experience. And it's exactly what people are looking for when they want a car that feels like it's living in the future. And speaking of making their game on the global stage, and they're starting to make some serious waves in markets like the US and Europe. While it's still a bit early, it's clear that these companies are ready to give traditional American and European car makers a run for their money. There's a lot behind this expansion, and it's all part of a bigger strategy to carve out a piece of the global automotive pie. Even though you won't find Chinese-branded passenger vehicles on US roads yet, Chinese automakers aren't giving up on breaking into the American market. Some companies are taking a smart approach by thinking about setting up manufacturing plants in Mexico. The idea is to dodge import tariffs and trade barriers that would normally make selling cars in the US tougher. It's like a backdoor way to get into the market, and it's gotten the attention of American car makers, who are now worried about losing market share if this plan goes through. Meanwhile, Europe is already seeing a pretty big push from Chinese automakers. Brands like BYD, MG, and NIO are making moves to introduce electric vehicles that are not only competitively priced, but also packed with advanced tech features that European consumers love. Take BYD's G6 SUV, for example. It's set to launch in the UK soon, and is designed to take on Tesla with features like automatic speed adjustments based on road signs. This kind of tech-forward approach is really appealing to European buyers who are looking for something innovative without breaking the bank. To make their mark even stronger, Chinese manufacturers are getting strategic by forming partnerships and even acquiring existing facilities in Europe. There's talk of Chinese companies potentially buying German Volkswagen factories that are slated for closure, which would boost their manufacturing capabilities and help them avoid some of the EU's tariffs on Chinese-made EVs. It's a smart way to sidestep some of the hurdles they might face when bringing cars into the European market, and it shows just how serious these companies are about expanding their reach. This push into Western markets is definitely shaking things up for established car brands. Chinese EVs are already known for being affordable and technologically advanced, and that's starting to worry American and European automakers. Mercedes-Benz's CEO even weighed in, suggesting that the EU should encourage Chinese companies to set up factories within the bloc. His point was that Chinese automakers moving in. Governments in the US and Europe are starting to respond with regulations that could slow down their progress. In the US, for example, there's a new rule that effectively bans the sale or import of vehicles with connected software from countries deemed to pose national security risks, including China. This could hit automakers like Polestar, which has ties to Chinese manufacturers, and prevent them from getting their cars into the US market. It's a move meant to protect local industries, but it could make things tricky for foreign companies trying to enter the scene. As Chinese automakers continue to push into global markets, it's clear that the impact on traditional brands is already being felt. Impact on traditional automakers. The rise of Chinese electric vehicles has completely shaken up the traditional auto industry. Chinese manufacturers have been churning out cars that are not only affordable, but also packed with advanced tech, and that's putting a lot of pressure on us. The competition has gotten a lot fiercer. Chinese car makers like BYD, NIO, and Xpeng have proven that they can make electric cars that are both cost-effective and high-tech, and that's really starting to challenge legacy automakers. Traditional companies can't just keep doing what they've been doing for decades. They have to step up their EV game if they want to keep their customers and market share. This competition has forced them to speed things up, ramping up their own EV development to catch up with the Chinese brands that have been so quick to innovate. Speaking of innovation, Chinese automakers are moving at lightning speed. They're reportedly about 30% faster than their Western counterparts when it comes to developing and releasing new EV models. That's no small margin, and it's pushing traditional car companies to invest more in research and development. They realize that if they don't keep up with the pace of change, they'll fall behind in the race for the future of mobility. So, now they're throwing more resources into R&D, trying to get new models on the road faster and improve their existing electric offerings. On top of that, Western automakers are starting to partner with Chinese companies to tap into their expertise. Volkswagen, for example, it's a way for European brands to learn from China's rapid advancements in the EV space, while also keeping a foot